The motel sat on the edge of the desert like a forgotten relic, its peeling paint and flickering vacancy sign barely noticeable amid the heat mirages that danced along the cracked asphalt. Lydia had been driving for hours, and fatigue had driven her to pull into the dusty lot despite the place's obvious disrepair. The air smelled faintly of sun-baked rust and something metallic just beneath it. The clerk behind the counter wore a lifeless expression, like someone halfway through a thought they never finished. He handed her a rusted key without a word, eyes never quite meeting hers. The room number, 17, was carved rather than painted onto the door. No electronic system, no receipt, just an unsettling quiet that followed her down the hallway like a second shadow. Inside, the room was surprisingly cold, a shiver-inducing contrast to the heat outside. The air conditioner in the corner buzzed too loudly, masking normal sounds like her own breathing or the tick of the clock. The furniture looked decades old, frozen in the aesthetic of another era, with a mustard yellow bedspread and thick floral drapes that blocked all light. Lydia sat on the edge of the bed, feeling a strange vibration beneath the mattress, as if something deep in the walls was humming. She got up and pressed her ear to the wall. Behind it, she thought she heard soft tapping, a consistent rhythm that stopped immediately once she acknowledged it. When she sat back down, the hum resumed, and now it seemed just a bit louder, just a bit closer. She tried the television, but all the channels were static, the kind that made her uneasy for reasons she couldn't explain. She flipped through them, pausing when the screen briefly caught an image, a blurry figure standing in the hallway outside her room. Startled, she muted the volume and rushed to the door, swinging it open. The hallway was empty, eerily silent. But as she was about to shut the door, she noticed something odd. The numbers on the next door room, 18, were missing. Their place on the door looked scrubbed clean, the metal plate gone entirely. She shuffled back into her room, locking both the bolt and the latch. As she did, she caught movement from the corner of her eye, a shadow slipping behind her bathroom door. She turned sharply, but of course, nothing was there. Sleep didn't come easily. The hum beneath the mattress swelled into a low drone, not loud enough to be complained about, but impossible to ignore. Lydia pulled the covers tight, her eyes fixed on the bathroom door, half expecting it to creak open on its own. Hours passed. Eventually, somehow, she dozed off, but not into dreams. She woke to the sound of the phone on the nightstand. The analog rotary phone hadn't rung earlier, hadn't even seemed plugged in. She reached for the receiver hesitantly. No ring, no dial tone, just a series of numbers already being input, as if from the other end. 1, 7, 0. Then silence. Then a whisper. "Don't open it." Lydia dropped the phone as if burned. When she turned toward the bathroom, the handle started to turn gently, back and forth, as though someone was deciding whether to come out or not. By morning, everything looked too still, too placed. The bathroom door remained shut, but she hadn't dared to approach it. She checked out hastily, but not before asking the front desk about the missing room number. The same clerk from the night before looked at her without blinking and said, "There's no room 18." His tone was so matter-of-fact that she began to doubt what she herself had seen. Before leaving, she turned back for one last glance at the strip of rooms. The door where she clearly remembered room 18 standing was now a solid wall. No frame, no number, no indication a room had ever been there. She got back in her car, determined never to return, but the keys in her ignition wouldn't turn. That was when she looked up and noticed something chilling. Her motel key was still hanging from the dashboard. Room 17. With her phone dead and no signal in any direction, Lydia trudged through the dry heat and returned to the motel, thinking she could at least use their landline to call for help. But as she walked back up the lot, she stopped in her tracks. The motel was wrong. It looked less worn now, its paint fresh, the vacancy sign replaced entirely by a more modern one that pulsed like a heartbeat. When she entered the lobby, the layout had shifted subtly. The clerk was gone, replaced by a mirror where the desk used to be. In its reflection, Lydia didn't see herself. She saw the hallway. And in the hallway, the door to room 17 stood wide open, shadows flickering within it like candlelight catching on water. She turned back to the lobby, but the entrance was gone, wall in its place. Every instinct told her to find the emergency exit, to break a window, anything. But the building stretched on as if in a loop, rooms repeating out of sequence. 15, 16, 17, then back to 15 again. She tried opening each one, but only 17 yielded easily. Inside, the room was transformed. It was no longer decrepit, but pristine, almost staged. The bed was untouched, lights warmly dimmed, radio softly playing an old love song she vaguely recognized. On the nightstand was a black and white Polaroid. It was of her, lying in the same bed, eyes closed, expression blank. She hadn't taken it. Her signature appeared, scratched on the bottom. And something had been written in red ink beneath it. Checkout, never. Just then, she heard the bathroom door creak open again from within that same room. A hand, slim and unfamiliar, curled around the edge of the frame. Except it wasn't reaching out. It was beckoning, inviting her inside, fingers moving in a slow rhythmic wave. Lydia stepped back into the hallway, heart pounding. But the hallway was wrong again, too long, too dark. Floor numbers now ran in reverse, plummeting downward. -1, -2, -3. The elevator at the end of the corridor dinged open without being called. Inside, the mirror reflected not her current self, but the woman in the Polaroid, lying still, sleeping, or pretending to sleep. A voice, faint and fond, whispered from the inside, "Welcome back."